Movies are often criticized for their lack of accuracy. However, movies like American Psycho and Hannibal Lecter get a few things right. They portray a cunning, manipulative, and unempathetic psychopath. It's so intriguing watching these characters act, but do you ever wonder what caused them to behave in such sadistic manners? In this presentation, we will discuss the causes of psychopathy and how it can be categorized. We will start by introducing the psychopathy checklist.
The psychopathy checklist is a psychological tool that was created to assess the presence of psychopathy in individuals. The 4 facets of the checklist include interpersonal, affective, lifestyle, and antisocial. This checklist was created by psychologist Robert Hare, who is a researcher in the field of criminal psychology. Facet 1 is the interpersonal factor, which includes superficial charm, a grandiose sense of self-worth, pathological lying, and being cunning or manipulative. Facet 2 is the affective factor, which includes a lack of remorse or guilt, being emotionally shallow, lacking empathy, and failure to accept responsibility for one's actions. Facet 3 is the lifestyle factor, which includes need for stimulation, a parasitic lifestyle, lack of realistic long-term goals, impulsivity, and irresponsibility. Facet 4 is the antisocial factor, which includes poor behavioral controls, early behavioral problems, juvenile delinquency, revocation of conditional release, and criminal versatility.
Although no one really knows the single underlying cause of psychopathy, just like no one has a definite cure for psychopathy, researchers have been able to narrow down the causes and risks for developing this antisocial personality disorder. The 3 causes that psychologists have narrowed down are genetics, environment, and biological causes. Although there are no clear biological causes for this antisocial personality disorder, research on the possible biological risk factors for the disorder indicates that the part of the brain, the amygdala, that is primarily responsible for learning one's mistakes and for responding to sad and fearful facial expressions, tends to be smaller and responds less to the happy, sad, or fearful facial expressions of others. That lack of response may have something to do with the lack of empathy that antisocial individuals tend to have with the feelings, rights, and sufferings of others. While some individuals may be more vulnerable to developing antisocial personality disorder as a result of their particular genetic background that is thought to be a factor only when a person is exposed to the life events such as abuse or neglect, they tend to put the person at risk for development of the disorder. For example, in Ted Bundy's childhood, he suffered tremendous abuse and neglect by family members and alleged sexual abuse from a Boy Scout leader.
New research suggested by the Vanderbilt University scientists have discovered that there is a positive correlation between the amount of dopamine in our brains and the likelihood of developing psychopathic traits. They found that people with high psychopathic traits have almost 4 times the amount of dopamine in response to receiving a reward. It may be that because of their exaggerated dopamine responses, once they focus on the chance to get a reward, psychopaths are unable to alter their attention until they get what they want. It's not just that they don't appreciate the potential threat, but that the anticipation or motivation for reward overwhelms those concerns. Genes play a significant role in the development of psychopathy. However, socialization and other environmental factors interact with genetics, so genes are not the only determinant in whether one has psychopathic traits. Thus, psychopathy is similar to other personality traits and disorders in which genetic factors are important, yet do not explain everything. Although specific gene relevance to psychopathy have not yet been identified, most people believe there are probably multiple genes which contribute to psychopathy, just as there are multiple genes involved in most clinical conditions which are partly hereditary.
There are many environmental factors that can play a role in developing antisocial personality disorder. The strongest factors include having a convicted parent, being physically neglected, low involvement with a father figure, low family income, and coming from a disrupted family. Other significant factors include poor supervision, harsh discipline, large family size, delinquent siblings, having a young mother or a depressed mother, low social class, and poor housing. There has also been associations between psychopaths and detrimental to treatment by peers. Researchers have linked head injuries with psychopathy and violence. Since the 1980s, scientists have associated traumatic brain injury, such as damage to the prefrontal cortex, including the orbitofrontal cortex, with psychopathic behavior and an ability to make morally and socially accepted decisions.
created using Powtoon.